Right now, as you're watching this video, there's a 91% chance your relationship will end in the next 5 years. But here's what most people don't know. It's not because you stopped loving each other. According to relationship expert John Gottman, there are 4 specific behaviors that predict divorce with shocking accuracy. He calls them the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, and if you can spot them in your relationship, you have the power to stop them before they destroy everything you've built together. The silent assassin. How criticism kills connection. Most people think they're just expressing frustration, but they're actually launching character assassinations that slowly poison their relationship. When Sarah tells her husband, "You never help with the dishes," she believes she's addressing a household problem. But when that same sentence becomes "You're lazy and selfish," she's crossed into dangerous territory. This transformation marks the arrival of the first horseman, criticism. Criticism differs fundamentally from complaints in one crucial way. A complaint targets a specific behavior or situation, while criticism attacks the person's character or personality. When you say the trash wasn't taken out, you're making a complaint. When you say you're irresponsible and can't handle simple tasks, you're criticizing. The difference determines whether your relationship moves toward resolution or destruction. Gottman's research reveals that criticism creates a defensive spiral where partners stop hearing each other and start protecting themselves. Your brain interprets character attacks as threats to your identity, triggering fight-or-flight responses that shut down rational thinking. Instead of addressing the original issue, both partners become locked in a battle to defend their sense of self. This defensive pattern makes problem-solving impossible because nobody can focus on solutions when they're under attack. Watch how criticism escalates in real conversations. The complaint "You never listen to me" contains frustration about a specific behavior, but criticism transforms it into "You're selfish and don't care about anyone but yourself." The focus shifts from the listening behavior to the person's entire character. Another example, "You forgot to pick up milk," becomes "You're unreliable and I can't count on you for anything." These character assassinations create wounds that persist long after the original issue is forgotten. Research demonstrates that criticism erodes self-esteem and creates communication breakdown over time. When partners receive constant character attacks, they begin to see themselves through their partner's critical lens. Their confidence diminishes, and they start believing they're fundamentally flawed. This erosion of self-worth makes them less likely to engage in healthy conflict resolution, because they feel defeated before conversations even begin. The relationship becomes a battlefield where both people fight to preserve their damaged sense of self. Criticism often masks deeper unmet needs and unexpressed vulnerabilities. When someone says you're inconsiderate, they're usually trying to communicate, "I feel unimportant when you don't consider my feelings." The criticism serves as armor protecting their vulnerable need for significance and care. But this armor prevents their partner from seeing the actual need underneath, making it impossible to address the real issue. This pattern becomes a habitual response that partners use when they feel unheard or disconnected. The more disconnected they feel, the more they criticize. The more they criticize, the more defensive their partner becomes. The more defensive their partner becomes, the more disconnected they feel. This cycle continues until both people stop trying to understand each other and focus solely on protecting themselves from further attacks. Breaking this cycle requires understanding the difference between expressing needs versus attacking character. Instead of saying "You're always late," try "I feel frustrated when plans change at the last minute because I value our time together." The first statement attacks the person's character and creates defensiveness. The second statement expresses your feelings and needs while focusing on specific behaviors that can be changed. The antidote to criticism involves 2 key techniques: using I statements and focusing on specific behaviors rather than character traits. I statements help you express your feelings without attacking your partner's identity. Instead of "You're messy," try "I feel overwhelmed when clothes are left on the floor because I like our bedroom to be peaceful." This approach gives your partner information about your needs without threatening their sense of self. Focusing on specific behaviors creates opportunities for change. When you say "You never help," you're addressing an impossible to change character flaw. When you say "I'd appreciate help with dinner preparation," you're requesting a specific, doable action. Your partner can't change their entire personality, but they can change specific behaviors when they understand what you need. The key to breaking the criticism-defensiveness cycle lies in timing and approach. Address issues when you're calm, not when you're flooded with emotion. Start with appreciation for something your partner does well, then express your need using I statements, and end with a specific request for behavior change. This approach protects your partner's self-esteem while still addressing your concerns, but criticism is just the beginning. There's something even more toxic that destroys relationships faster, and it's so subtle that most couples don't recognize it until it's too late. The relationship poison. When contempt takes over, there's one behavior so toxic that it predicts divorce more accurately than any other factor, and most couples don't even realize they're doing it. When Mark rolls his eyes at his wife's suggestion about vacation plans, he thinks he's showing mild disagreement. When Jennifer uses a sarcastic tone to mock her husband's cooking attempts, she believes she's just being playful. Both are actually engaging in contempt, the second horseman and the most dangerous relationship killer of all. Contempt involves superiority, disgust, and the complete devaluation of your partner. Unlike criticism, which attacks character, contempt positions you as morally superior while treating your partner as beneath you. It communicates that your partner is worthless, incompetent, or fundamentally flawed as a human being. This behavior creates a power imbalance that destroys the fundamental equality needed for healthy relationships to survive. Contempt isn't just anger or frustration. It's the belief that you're better than your partner, expressed through eye-rolling, sarcasm, and mockery. When you feel contempt, you're not just disagreeing with your partner's actions or opinions, you're viewing them as inferior and communicating that superiority through your words, tone, and body language. This distinction makes contempt far more destructive than other negative behaviors, because it attacks the core of your partner's humanity. Watch how contempt appears in subtle forms that couples often dismiss as harmless. Dismissive laughter when your partner shares an idea signals that their thoughts aren't worth taking seriously. Name-calling during arguments, even terms that seem playful, like dummy or idiot, communicates that your partner lacks intelligence or competence. Hostile humor that targets your partner's insecurities or mistakes sends the message that their vulnerabilities are entertainment. These behaviors may seem minor, but they communicate a deep-seated lack of respect that erodes the relationship's foundation. The physiological impact of contempt extends far beyond hurt feelings. Research demonstrates that exposure to ongoing contempt literally weakens the immune system and creates emotional trauma. When your partner treats you with contempt, your body responds as if you're under physical attack. Stress hormones flood your system, your heart rate increases, and your immune function decreases. This chronic stress response leads to anxiety, depression, and a range of physical health problems that compound the relationship damage. Contempt creates a power imbalance that destroys the fundamental equality needed for healthy relationships. When one partner consistently positions themselves as superior, the other partner begins to feel shame, distress, and worthlessness. This dynamic makes it impossible for both people to feel safe being vulnerable or authentic with each other. The relationship becomes a hierarchy instead of a partnership. With one person holding power over the other through emotional domination, the psychological roots of contempt often stem from unresolved resentment and feeling morally superior. When partners harbor unexpressed anger about past hurts or unmet needs, that resentment builds until it transforms into contempt. The contemptuous partner begins to see themselves as the victim of their partner's failures, which justifies their superior attitude. This moral superiority feels protective because it shields them from acknowledging their own contributions to relationship problems. Contempt becomes a habitual response that escalates over time if left unchecked. What starts as occasional eye-rolling or sarcastic comments gradually increases in frequency and intensity. The contemptuous partner gets reinforcement from feeling superior, while their partner either fights back with their own contempt or withdraws to protect themselves. Partners' positive qualities and focus solely on their flaws and failures. Gottman's research reveals that contempt surpasses other negative behaviors as the strongest predictor of divorce. This happens because contempt undermines the respect and appreciation that healthy relationships require. When partners can't see each other's value or treat each other with basic dignity, they lose the motivation to work through problems together. The relationship becomes a source of pain rather than support. Breaking the cycle of contempt requires consciously building respect and appreciation for your partner. Instead of focusing on their flaws, actively look for their strengths and positive qualities. Express gratitude for things they do well, even small, everyday actions. When you feel contempt rising, pause and ask yourself what need or hurt is driving that feeling. Address the underlying issue directly instead of expressing it through superior attitudes or mocking behavior. When your partner shows contempt, resist the urge to respond with defensive anger or counter-contempt. Instead, set a clear boundary by saying something like, "I can see you're upset, but I need you to speak to me respectfully." This approach acknowledges their feelings without accepting contemptuous treatment. Focus on rebuilding the respect and appreciation that contempt has damaged through consistent positive interactions. When contempt appears, it triggers an automatic response that makes everything worse. Your partner's brain interprets contemptuous behavior as a threat, activating defense mechanisms that shut down rational thinking and problem-solving abilities. The Great Wall: How Defensiveness and Stonewalling End Everything. When your partner attacks, your brain has 0.3 seconds to choose between connection and protection, and most people choose wrong. In that split second, your nervous system activates ancient survival mechanisms that prioritize self-preservation over relationship repair. This automatic response triggers the final two horsemen: defensiveness and stonewalling. These behaviors create impenetrable barriers between partners that make conflict resolution impossible and slowly suffocate the relationship. Defensiveness and stonewalling represent the ultimate relationship killers because they shut down communication entirely. When criticism and contempt appear, at least partners are still engaging with each other, even if that engagement is toxic. But defensiveness and stonewalling create complete disconnection. One partner builds walls to protect themselves, while the other withdraws entirely, leaving both people isolated and unable to repair the damage. Defensiveness seems logical when you're under attack, but it actually prevents conflict resolution and creates escalating cycles of blame. Your brain interprets your partner's complaints as threats to your identity, triggering an immediate need to prove your innocence. This protective response makes perfect sense from a survival perspective, but it destroys your ability to hear your partner's actual concerns or take responsibility for your actions. Watch how defensiveness sounds in real conversations. When your partner says you never help with the kids, defensiveness responds with, "It's not my fault, I have to work late," or "You're the one who insists on doing everything yourself." These responses deflect responsibility and shift blame back to your partner. Instead of addressing the original concern about help with childcare, the conversation becomes a battle over who's more at fault. Another example, "You forgot our anniversary," becomes "You're the one who handles all the calendar stuff." Or, "I've been stressed at work, and you know that." Each defensive response escalates the conflict because it communicates that you're not willing to take responsibility for your actions. Research shows that stonewalling triggers abandonment fears and creates emotional damage similar to physical pain. When your partner withdraws from interaction during conflict, your brain interprets this as rejection and abandonment. The same neural pathways that activate during physical injury light up when someone you love shuts you out emotionally. This explains why stonewalling feels so devastating and why it creates lasting damage to the relationship's foundation. Stonewalling appears protective, but actually punishes partners through emotional withdrawal. The stonewaller believes they're avoiding conflict by refusing to engage, but they're actually using silence as a weapon. When you turn away, act busy, or simply stop responding during important conversations, you're communicating that your partner isn't worth your attention or energy. This withdrawal creates feelings of isolation and rejection that can be more damaging than direct conflict. Gender differences in stonewalling reveal important patterns about how men and women respond to relationship stress. Men are more likely to stonewall than women, partly because they experience greater physiological stress during conflict. Their heart rates increase more dramatically, and their stress hormones spike higher, making withdrawal feel like the only way to regulate their overwhelmed nervous systems. However, both men and women can stonewall, and the impact on the relationship is equally damaging regardless of gender. Stonewalling typically emerges when people feel emotionally flooded. This state occurs when your nervous system becomes so overwhelmed by stress that you can't think clearly or respond constructively. Your ability to process information shuts down, making it impossible to engage in productive problem solving. The flooded person withdraws as a protective mechanism, but this withdrawal leaves their partner feeling abandoned and rejected. The partner who gets stonewalled experiences a cascade of negative emotions that compound the relationship damage. They feel ignored, dismissed, and unimportant, which creates emotional distance and makes it difficult to trust and feel close to their partner. This behavior effectively shuts down communication, making it impossible to address issues, resolve conflict, and build mutual understanding. The stonewalled partner often escalates their attempts to reconnect, which pushes the stonewaller further into withdrawal. These responses can be interrupted and redirected toward connection through conscious effort and practice. The key lies in recognizing when you're becoming defensive or emotionally flooded and taking steps to stay present with your partner. This requires developing awareness of your physiological responses to conflict and learning to pause before reacting automatically. Breaking the cycle requires taking responsibility for your actions and staying emotionally present during difficult conversations. Instead of defending yourself when your partner expresses concern, try saying, "I can see why you'd feel that way," or "Help me understand what you need from me." This approach acknowledges your partner's experience without admitting fault for everything, which keeps the conversation focused on solutions rather than blame. When you feel overwhelmed and want to withdraw, communicate your need for space directly. Say, "I'm feeling flooded right now and need 20 minutes to calm down, but I want to finish this conversation instead of simply shutting down." This approach protects your nervous system while maintaining connection with your partner. Now that you understand the four horsemen, here's how to build a relationship that survives anything by transforming these destructive patterns into opportunities for deeper connection. And a final thought before we conclude. The four horsemen aren't relationship death sentences. They're warning signs that give you the power to choose connection over destruction. When you recognize criticism creeping into your conversations, you can shift to expressing needs instead of attacking character. When contempt appears, you can rebuild respect and appreciation. When defensiveness rises, you can take responsibility and stay present with your partner. Your challenge this week? Identify which horseman appears most in your relationship and commit to practicing one specific antidote. Every relationship has conflict, but couples who thrive fight for each other instead of against each other. Thank you for watching and taking the time to learn about the four horsemen of the apocalypse in relationships. Remember, awareness is the first step to growth. By spotting these destructive patterns early, you can choose connection over conflict and strengthen your bond. Keep practicing empathy, respect, and understanding in your relationship. You have the power to create lasting love. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more insights on building healthier connections. Stay curious, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.